This video takes you on a brief tour of the new I-35E corridor between University Avenue in St. Paul and Little Canada Road in Little Canada. We'll work our way northward. Long-awaited reconstruction and rehabilitation of the Interstate 35E corridor begins in spring 2013. Completion of the nearly 4.5-mile-long project will take place by late 2015. When completed, the project also will feature Min-Pass express lanes in both directions of I-35E, alongside the 3 lanes of general-purpose traffic. As we make our way north, you'll see we're replacing the bridge over Pennsylvania Avenue, the bridge spanning Cayuga Street, and the bridges spanning the railroad. The freeway itself will be shifted several hundred feet to the east, near Cayuga Street. We're replacing the current interchange at Pennsylvania Avenue with a full-access interchange at Cayuga Street. Moving freeway access from Pennsylvania Avenue to Cayuga Street will improve safety and reduce congestion while lessening delays and providing better freeway access for St. Paul's Phelan Boulevard corridor. In addition, the project includes extension of the Gateway Trail, which currently terminates at Cayuga Street, all the way to University Avenue. The project also will provide trails to connect the Gateway Trail and the Vento Trail along Cayuga Street. We've already completed a sizable amount of work north of Cayuga Street by replacing the Maryland Avenue Bridge spanning I-35E during summer 2012. As we continue northward, we'll note new bridges spanning the interstate at Arlington Avenue, Wheelock Parkway, and Larpenteur Avenue.
I'd like to welcome everyone. This is a beautiful sight to see so many people out tonight. So this is what community is about, and this is what the East Side is about. People coming out who care about the neighborhood, who care about what's happening, and who want a fair deal for the East Side. We're here tonight to respond to a meeting that we held with MnDOT Commissioner Charlie Zelle. We appreciated his leadership. He said, yep, we'll work with the community, and so we have representatives from MnDOT here tonight. And I'll be introducing Scott McBride in just a moment, who is going to speak about his role tonight in this meeting. I'd like to ask Minnesota Representative Tim Mahoney. Are you here? Yes, would you come up and just tell people about a little bit about how we got to this point? Put him on the spot, you know. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. As Leslie said, thank you for all of you for coming out tonight. This is good to see when our community can come together and to have the conversation about what's going on. You know, I was made aware that there was being some changes being made in the I-35E corridor in terms of the bike pass, walking pass, the freeway, the Min-Pass. The whole thing was going to be changed. And Leslie called. We called the commissioner and talked to the commissioner and got his attention and asked him to have a meeting with a variety of the stakeholders. And he agreed to work with us to try to figure out a solution that the community is looking to come to. And one of the things was that Leslie had brought it up, and I believe Jim McDonough and myself. I'll get in trouble because I won't say everyone that was at the meeting.
Janice Rittman.
Janice Rittman. And he asked that, well, what does the community want? And our response was, well, we haven't really heard enough from the community. So we'd like to have a meeting with the community and have your representatives here and the city representatives, and they are here, and you are here. So I pushed this because I think this was important for our community to have this conversation. So please, have the conversation, and let's all stay respectful and try to come up with a plan to a solution to this particular issue this evening. So thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Well said. Our goal tonight is to have input from every person in this room. And if we gave 3 minutes to every person in this room, we're here longer than we probably want to be. So we're going to have a combination of speaking input and written input. And I will stay as long as we need to record your comments. What we're going to do is quickly go over what the pre-construction site looks like, what is coming in, where the gaps are in the system, what District 5 has responded are the gaps, what we're asking for from MnDOT. Then we want the community to think about that and to add in your comments, and where it says community input and responses, that's the bulk of our meeting tonight. So we'll move quickly through these pieces. We have two projects, the Cayuga project, which was tied in with the Phelan Corridor development. The EIS for that was in 1999. And we all know the Phelan Boulevard is here and has had a huge impact on the east side. The Cayuga project was the final phase of that work. It was a feeder into the corridor and to bring people and access to the east side. And the Cayuga project in part, now maybe Scott will reflect on this, it was in part to fix deficiencies that had existed in the highway design before that may have served to prevent our businesses from thriving as much as they could because people couldn't get off the freeway, or it's harder to get off the freeway into our neighborhood. So this is our one chance to get it right. And some of the outreach that was done emphasized that this is a 100-year project. Is that correct? It's about a 100-year lifespan. We probably aren't going to see it reconstructed again in our lifetime. Some of you, maybe not me, and most of us. So the District 5 Council said, let's make it fair, let's make it right, let's make it work. And that's what we're here to do, is to give input on where the gaps are and what can fix it and how to get the best possible plan out of this project. District 5 had worked, I think Al mentioned that. Al Ortwig had a key role in representing the District 5 Council and the Visual Quality Advisory Committee for the Cayuga project. And we participated, but frankly, we found it a flawed process. Communication wasn't always as great as it could be. It's difficult to communicate in the community sometimes. And there are concerns. So we know that some people have strong feeling about this, and that's not a bad thing because we should have strong feeling about our community and the resource share that this community deserves to get. So I want to ask, I had Rich Bowl, do you want to just come up and read something, because we wanted people to get the idea that it's okay to ask for things in this project. It's okay to ask. This is a $229 million project. It goes along the western side of our District 5 Planning Council, Payne-Phelan. We have 30,700 people in our neighborhood. So this is a key access route to and from our neighborhood, and our success in the metro area depends on having good connections. So that's why the flyer said, let's complete the plan. There are good things in the plan, but can we make it better? And let's make sure we're connecting the east side. And I just wanted Rich to read a few things that give us a framework for our discussion. Okay, go right ahead. This is Rich Bold. He's on the board of directors.
Hi, I'm Rich Bold. I'm been
I'm
elected
talk
to the...
right into the microphone.
Yeah, I'm Rich Bold. I was elected to the Payne-Phelan District 5 Planning Council. Just wanted to point out a couple of things. We had some frustration through this process dealing with the different government organs and stuff. I just wanted to clarify our position is that it has always been the position of the Payne-Phelan District Council that we wanted a trail in the MnDOT right-of-way running from the east side of the freeway from Arlington to Cayuga with access at Cayuga to the Gateway Trail. This has always been our position. And there's been a lot of efforts kind of in our feeling that there have been efforts to confuse this position of ours. I had read their book on bicycle modal plan, the Minnesota Department of Transportation's bicycle modal plan. And I did find that there is state statute requiring that they mitigate our loss to access to this trail. I'll just cite that right now so that everybody knows it word for word. That according to Minnesota statute, chapter 160.264, whenever an existing bikeway, pedestrian way, or roadway used by bicycles or pedestrians, or the sole access to such is destroyed, any new, reconstructed, or relocated federal, state, or local highway, the road authority responsible shall replace the destroyed facility or access with a comparable facility or access. Basically, this means the responsibility lays on MnDOT to mitigate our loss to the Gateway Trail. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
What year is that law? Has anybody ever had any success getting them to do just that on different trails?
I took this right out of their current plan. Let me see.
Updated.
Updated 1987.
87. Has anybody in Minnesota ever had success with that law getting that job done before? Or we don't know?
Sure, sure.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And
Okay. If you take it or break it, you'd better buy something as good or better to replace it. That's what Mom says. Okay. Thank you.
so I think, thank you.
All right.
And then federal DOT non-discrimination law does add that in determining the site or location of facilities, a recipient or applicant of federal funding may not make selections with the purpose or effect of excluding persons from denying the benefits of or subjecting them to discrimination under any program to which this regulation applies on the grounds of race, color, or national origin, or with the purpose or effect of defeating or substantially impairing the accomplishment of the objectives of the Non-Discrimination Act. The reason we mention that is that this neighborhood has population, especially along the corridor, some of the census tracts that are lowest income in Minnesota and also the most diverse. And people are afforded protections under the law to make sure that when federal funds are applied, that they're applied equitably and fairly. So we want to welcome Scott McBride, the Metro District Engineer. If you could come up and just introduce yourself. Scott McBride is here on the behalf of Commissioners Charlie Zelle, and he is in charge of the 7-county metro area plus Chisago County. And we're very grateful that you're here tonight, and we hope to learn from you, and we look forward to continuing to work with you on the community's needs. So do you want to just say a word about your being here and your directive from Commissioner Zelle?
Sure. Can I turn it back to you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, Leslie.
Yeah, I'll stand right here.
As she said, my name is Scott McBride. I'm the district engineer, and as Leslie mentioned, what that means is I have a giant area that I'm responsible for, which includes, of course, this area. It's a 7-county metro area, Chisago County, and from that standpoint, we work with pretty much every county in there, every community in there on transportation projects that we do all over the metro area. Commissioner Zelle asked me to attend tonight for him. He is out of town on vacation right now. And we had what I would consider to be a very good meeting with the community leaders that was mentioned earlier by Leslie and by Al, I think. And one thing I will tell you about Commissioner Zelle, he's been commissioner now for since about January, I think he was appointed. So I think we can still call him fairly new as commissioner. But I will tell you what you get with Commissioner Zelle is an incredibly genuine person, a person that cares, a person that listens to the community, and that's why we're here tonight. When we had the meeting the other day, there was a lot of information around the table, and of course for the commissioner himself to take all of that in, and I mean, you can't judge that information because it's a lot of information. And there's also, there are different proposals for things out in the community as well. So the purpose of today, working with Leslie, is to hear. We want to hear what the community has to say. It would be really nice if we had a totally one unified voice on what it is to do out there, but that's not the way communities work. We certainly understand that. So our intent today is to listen, and as Leslie mentioned, we've got a number of staff here that have been working on this project for a long, long time, some of them, and will continue to work on this project and work on solutions to the issues we raise here tonight as we move forward. So I don't expect we get a solution tonight, but certainly expect that we get information that we can use to help us as we move forward and continue to work with the community.
And when we spoke, you said that Commissioner Zelli would work with us directly after we get all this information gathered and work on solutions locally? Is that, there's a commitment there?
Yeah, excuse me. Yes, there is a commitment from the commissioner to continue working. I doubt we'll have him at a drafting board, drafting up some of these layouts. He's not a technical person per se.
We just need his signature of approval.
Exactly right. And he's willing to work with the community, and we worked with the legislature. There was legislation proposed for this area. We committed last February, essentially, to continue working on these issues, and we've been working on them since then. So I would say that what the commissioner did was extend a commitment we already had and affirm a commitment that we already had to continue to work through these issues with the community.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We do appreciate the work of MnDOT staff that are now working with us, and also St. Paul Public Works, the city, the county, and state leaders, and together we will get a solution for this area. So we wanted to mention that the next step is to take our plan to Commissioner Zelli, so we have work to do tonight that is going to lead to something. This isn't just a venting session, this is about getting the job done for the east side. We are going to quickly go right to the images because I think that it really helps focus the discussion. Are we ready, Ruben? I'm looking for the first, what's there now. And this is probably hard to see in the back. So what this references is a handout that you received. And if someone, are you able to talk about, go around, like take from the top down and read the call-out boxes? You want to do that? Excuse me. Yep. So if you could, kind of take us through what the current situation is, and then we'll go to what's planned. Then we're going to stop and assess, and then we'll come back.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie, and I'll look for Ruben to kind of help with, I don't know if the mouse will kind of indicate on there, and I will, one change to your plan, engineers don't go from north to south ever. We always work from south to north and west to east, so I can't do north to south. So we're going to start on the south. So what this represents is the existing facilities that are out there today, and we just concentrated this on the black lines that you see there are the freeway as it exists today. And then the green we represent, and hopefully you've got these at your table as well. There should hopefully be a couple of at each table. You can take a closer look as well. The green represents the pedestrian and bicycle facilities. And of course, the big facility out there is the Gateway State Trail. So what you'll see on the south end, and just to orient you on the map, the south end you can see Phelan Boulevard, kind of as it curves there. On the very north end, you can see Larpenteur. So that's kind of the breadth of this map. And so on the south end, the existing condition you see is a bike path along, a pedestrian facility along Phelan Boulevard and hooking up to the street that hooks into Case Avenue. I don't know the name of that, whether it's Westminster, down that far south or not. And Mississippi, thank you.
Which is now under construction.
Yep, thank you. So the box on the left side it points out the current southern terminus of the Gateway Trail. So that's where the Gateway State Trail ends today. And then on the right side, you see underneath the freeway at Case, the existing tunnel underneath the freeway, connecting the Gateway State Trail to the neighborhood at Case Avenue. Then moving north to Maryland, there's a Maryland underpass that is just been constructed with the Maryland Bridge project on the west side. That's not currently in use yet, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. And then, of course, the Maryland Bridge was reconstructed just recently. And moving to the north, you can see the diagonal piece of the Gateway Trail just south of Arlington, and that is an old railroad bridge that, of course, has been repurposed to take the Gateway Trail over the top of 35E, and it crosses at grade at Arlington. So those are the local facilities that are in place, and as I mentioned, you can see the Trout Brook Trail, you can see the Gateway State Trail coming down on that map. Oh, and I should mention also down at the very bottom right corner is the Avento Trail as well. That comes into play a little bit later as well. So if you go to the next map then, what I hope you see is considerably more boxes on there. These represent the commitments that have been made with this project, and a couple of them outside of the MnDOT highway work there that will hit, and represent a significant, I think, a significant improvement in a lot of the pedestrian and bicycle trail connections out here. So again, starting at the south end, you'll see just on the west side, there's a Gateway State Trail extension. Remember on the last map, it ends at Cayuga Street. We're actually extending that about 3/4 of a mile, and it goes down and it crosses Phelan, and it ends then at University. So that's a brand new extension of the Gateway State Trail. And just to the south end also, you'll notice improved pedestrian connections underneath 35E at Phelan Boulevard. And we do remove the freeway access there. I should mention, of course, that the black lines show the freeway, and it does show the relocation of the Pennsylvania Phelan interchange up to Cayuga, the new Cayuga connection. There will not be an exit at Pennsylvania. That will exit at Cayuga. Yep. And okay, so mentioned the Gateway State Trail connection on the west side. Want to note that we do have some connections because of the new Cayuga interchange. We do have new connections in from Phelan Boulevard up across 35E on improved facilities to Cayuga Street. So those are new as well. And we do note that there will be a new traffic signal by the city at the intersection just to the north of Phelan. There are a couple of other significant things here. One of them, of course, is that existing Case Avenue east-west trail under 35E is to be removed. We worked very hard at trying to figure out a way to replace that. It's an incredibly expensive engineering endeavor to do that. And so what you see on here are improved connections at Maryland, improved connections at Phelan, and some improvement in connections to Maryland and Phelan on the east side as well. The city is reconstructing on the west side, or constructing new, an extension of the Trout Brook Trail that comes down and hooks up with the Cayuga intersection. John, time frame?
It's underway.
It's underway now. Thanks. And I should mention that everything you see on here is planned to be done by 2016, which coincides with the end of the 35E construction. So when the bulldozers and everything finally, the pavers finally pull out, this is what will be on the ground at that time. On the staying in that same area between Maryland and Cayuga Street, on the east side, you'll see Case Avenue is to be realigned, and there'll be sidewalk construction there, or reconstruction, I should say, there, so there'll be improved pedestrian connections there. Moving up to Maryland, mentioned earlier that the new tunnel underneath Maryland was put in with the Maryland Avenue Bridge connection.
That's on the west side.
Excuse me, the west side?
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you, Leslie. That's in place now. It's not connected, but the connection to that trail from Maryland will occur in that time frame. And we note there that is done by the DNR. I'm going to stay on that west side and go all the way up to Arlington right now before I come back to Maryland. You'll notice the 3 yellow boxes there. So there'll be another connection from Maryland to the Gateway Trail. And then there is a realignment of the Gateway Trail. A couple of different things happen here. The DNR plans to relocate the Gateway Trail along the east side of Lorient. Okay, so today it comes behind the Kmart, as you noticed on the last drawing. So it'll stay on the inside of Lorient all the way essentially from Cayuga Street up to Arlington, with no street grade crossings through there. So that should be a significant improvement. Another change that you see there is the Gateway Trail would be realigned to parallel Arlington. And the reason for that is the railroad bridge that it's on today is substandard, and to widen 35E, we actually need to remove that railroad bridge. And so what we will do is improve and widen Arlington then to carry the Gateway Trail across that. It will not be in traffic, it'll be a separate bike facility on the same bridge. So that's noted on the box just on the right side there, trail and sidewalk on the new Arlington Bridge. And then coming back down to Maryland, on the east side, I want to note you see in dashed from Mississippi up to Maryland, right next to the freeway there, there's a trail segment that will be constructed with the project that's ongoing today. And we have entered into an agreement it's not quite formal yet, but agreement to maintain that. So that trail will be going in with the project that's going today.
Could you describe the trail?
Yes, that trail essentially goes along the ramp, the exit ramp, the northbound exit ramp, and is off-road, so it's not along any street, and it will simply connect up from Jessamine up to Maryland. And then there's a project that Ramsey County is doing at Maryland that will reconstruct and add turn lanes at Arkwright, correct? Okay. And of course, the bubble just to the north of that is that new sidewalks, wider, improved sidewalks were constructed with the Maryland Bridge that happened last summer. So I think that's just a quick run through of the improvements, and if you just put those maps side to side, we hope that you certainly see that there are a lot of improvements made with that project.
Do people have this map on your table? It's got, yours is colored, I think. Did you bring those copies? Yep.
Which map is it?
It's the one, I see one, maybe it's a different color. Yeah. May I see that? I'll give it right back. So we have a different map, and I'm talking about these two. Do folks have this? No? Okay. Some do, some don't. Can we share? I'm so sorry that not everyone should have had maps, but we'll just, there are more people here than we thought would come out. I'd like to just focus us a little bit on the reason for this meeting is if you fold it right down 35E, it's not exactly because there's the curve on 35E. What we noticed is that on the west side, and you said you work west to east, we understand that, but on the west side, we have the Gateway Trail, we have amenities, we have things that build community. And District 5 and the community kind of noticed that on the east side, not so much. And so I just want to introduce the concept, which I think you all already have, of course, is that what we're looking for is connectivity through this project so that we have some equal treatment and parity on the east side to what's on the west side. What we're missing, we keep talking about something's missing. We just want to be clear. What's missing was a connection that went from Case to Mississippi underneath the freeway. It was State Trail and National Recreational Trail. So we lost the bit of trail that was there, but we also lost access. And what the District 5 Council has worked on is realizing that it's not about directions, north, south, east, west, it's about connections. We need a connected, functional transportation system for the next 100 years. So this is our chance to make those connections and figure out tonight what is needed to fill the gaps. What this map doesn't show, and Wayne Norset shared that with me, it doesn't show the Jessamine Trail. The Jessamine Trail was negotiated to help mitigate that loss, but when we looked at it, we're like, Okay, you're on Case, you go north to Maryland, that's nice. What happens at Maryland? You run into 2,700 cars, I believe, is the going east and west. 27,000 cars going east and west on Maryland. That's the traffic count in the 2030 study with the Met Council. So what do you do when you get to Maryland? Well, let's say you want to get on the Gateway Trail. As mentioned, you go west and you take your bike or your kids or your stroller and you cross over a couple of crossings. How many crossings are there to get to the west side of the bridge? Two crossings of entrance, the ramp connections, and then you get over there and you see the trail below, and how do you get there? So that's part of the first piece. We talked about connectivity, and we wrote about this. It's like, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, but can you really get to it? If you don't get from the neighborhood point of access to the bridge, you can have a beautiful bridge, but if you can't get there, you got a problem. And so in simple terms, that's what we realized. And the next piece, that connections had to be made to recreational access and designated trails. And MnDOT has responded already with the DNR to that request, and we heard of it first in our meeting with Commissioner Zelli, that the day before the meeting with Zelli, there was an agreement that yes, that needed to happen. So I think it's good to be asking for what you need. What else? So District 5, in terms of connectivity, this is not a fancy map, but here are the three bridges. Here's where the Gateway Trail came. This bridge is going to go away, as you heard. And why is it going away in a layman's terms, or just because you're widening the road and you can't extend it? Is that the information?
Yes, we're widening 35E underneath, and the piers are in the way of that widening on 35E, so we have to remove the bridge.
So the trail's going to come over here and come down here, and Trout Brook and Trillium is over here. So the west side's done a good job. We have a good job on the west side, I think. Would you say so, Carrie? You're with District 6.
Pardon me, I'm sorry.
Is District 6 fairly happy with the west side? Or you still have issues? Kind of?
There's a few things, yeah.
Things are working on over there. We're kind of focused tonight on the east side, but
Yes.
really we're talking about a connected system. So it's
Good
a very,
question.
yeah,
With that bridge that you can't extend across the road,
right.
can you make it an S curve so that it uses some of the pier or the bridge stuff there?
The slant.
Do you have to make it a straight slant? Can you just make it an S curve or something like that?
Well, some people have said that bridge,
For a S curve.
I'm not sure.
The bike, the bridge.
The Sioux Line
bike-
Bridge, yeah.
Yeah, can you take that out and put in like an S curve?
A new bridge could be replaced.
You need to talk louder in order for people to hear you.
Excuse me. Thank you for the feedback. The question was, could changes be made to that bridge if it's going away? And the answer is yes. And that's what we're here tonight to prioritize, is what do people want? If the bridge is going away, something has to replace it. Not only replace it, but restore and improve the connections. And there are a host of policies and rules about pedestrian and bike access. So we're just here to hear what you want. The bridge is going away, the Sioux Line Bridge. And I know when I was out there on Sunday, there were like 40 people on the bridge in the Sunday evening, families, people walking. So it is a valued asset in our neighborhood. And the connection to the south, or closer to Mississippi, that's the lost connectivity. So those are the things, specific things we're losing. And we have a partial solution with the Jessamine Trail, but it's still not connected. It doesn't go to Cayuga and it doesn't go to Arlington. And so what we're looking for is, I'm sorry, nothing's working. It's the stupidity. So, this bridge is going.
Does your mic go back there,
Can you
Leslie?
bring your mic to you? Like, or how about bring a poster? Bring the mic to the mic.
Sorry, I know it's frustrating. Thank you. So what District 5 has asked for, again, is connections on the east and west side of the three bridges to pedestrian and bicycle facilities. And also to have a trail that's from the Cayuga interchange up to the Jessamine Trail, connects to Maryland, That is at a signalized crossing. This would be repaired in 2016 is what we heard, the access to the underpass. Is that soon enough for people, or is that's a question. And then District 5 has proposed a trail in the MnDOT right-of-way from Maryland up to Arlington, so that you can access the Gateway Trail, the Bruce Vento Trail, and there's connectivity. You also, if you live in these areas, you're able to go east and west onto the trail and back again. So those are, that's a concept we want you to think about as you give input tonight. There are other concepts that have been shared, replacing a pedestrian bridge, the Sioux Line Bridge, and what other ideas have we heard? The Shareway idea with Amy Brenman's office has promoted the concept of a shared bike way, walkway, and path that goes with motorized vehicle traffic down Westminster from that connects to the Gateway Trail down to Cayuga. So, and if you want, there's a John, I want you to determine if you want to show that tonight or not. We can just discuss it, or we can.
I guess we're here to listen, and at this point. So
Did people get the maps of the Shareway? Okay. So if you have the map, that's another option that's being discussed. So we'd like to, I think, move quickly to have people give input, and I'll be up here and we'll ask questions as needed. And if you want to ask a question, I'll help direct the flow. Yes.
I'll ask a question. My name's Dave Sires. I'm on the board. I live in the neighborhood. I have children.
You stand up, and here's the microphone, because people need it. They really do need it. Yeah.
So I appreciate the turnout. My name's Dave Sires. I live right here in the neighborhood. I'm on the board, and I have a question. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for the maps. Thanks for the really late in the game additions to the planning. This is what's been missing from this process. We've asked for a couple of years now for input on how we're going to find the right accommodation for the loss of the connectivity. I think we're seeing a little bit of it. But to keep things simple, my question is, in reference to what Rich read earlier, where existing facilities that are demolished during a project will be replaced with same or better, why wouldn't we replace the bridge for pedestrian and bike only, so it's completely separate from the roadway? Same thing on the south end. I mean, really, to oversimplify it, that's what it boils down to me, for me, is those two connections are the method by which the vast majority of the people living on the east side of 35E access the trail. We've heard along the way that Maryland is a good way to access it. Well, we know that by 2016 we'll have a reparation there, but Maryland Avenue has always existed, folks. It's been there forever, so that's not a replacement of a loss. So really, for me, to keep it real simple, why wouldn't we replace this bridge with something that would fit the width of the added lane, which, quite frankly, we didn't ask for the min-pass lane in the first place, but that's another meeting. That's another issue. But these are the two, and I think we've got an opportunity to deal with them both tonight, if we can get enough input and a basis for design, and the basis for design might be a wider version of what's there today. And similarly, a condition that's restored to what's there today on the south end. Thanks very much.
We're ready to start having you come and give input. And are there clarifying questions before we start?
Can we get a response to David's question?
The answer is we're here to ask for what we want. The community believes mitigation is due, not only mitigation, but improving and restoring lost access. So yes, ask for what we want. Who's ready? Rich Bold again, okay. I'm gonna put a 3-minute timeline on people because we have a lot of people here we wanna get through. So be succinct, be clear, and let's go. Okay, someone had a question. Can you raise your hand or stand up? Oh, I see you. Back here. I've got you, sir. That's.
Speak loud.
Yeah, see, I'm listening to all this stuff about building things, such as corridors and light rail trains, but who's going to be behind it and how often they're going to inspect it? And I noticed that there are a lot of places where they are building these light rail trains, and they're building up pretty quickly. And it's like, are they going to turn around and have somebody come out there and check it out, even the train, before it's put on the track? And these senators and DFL people, what are they going to be doing? Are they going to be helping out? They're going to have a meeting besides this one and talk and have it on camera saying, the money that is being raised, will it all goes towards that train or whatever else you got trying to build?
Yeah, so that's a lane actually.
To there and some are going somewhere else, like in somebody else's pocket. It's like, come on now.
Well, we're here tonight, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, keep it going.
You're saying keep your eye on what's going on.
Just keep it real, okay? Because
okay.
People, meetings like this, they say it was all one big joke. And I don't know if you've seen the thing that happened in Spain with that accident going on, all the people losing their lives and stuff. It's like,
Okay, so your question is about safety. Safety is important. Yeah.
That's right.
Okay. So I'm going to ask that people actually come up here. Thank you for the comment about safety. Safety is a very important value in the design of this project. I'm going to ask that people form a line and make comments. We are recording comments, and we're ready to go. Rich, I'm going to time you, though.
Okay. Ready? Hi. I was just up the north side of Maryland a few days ago, and then I noticed something about the lay of the land up there. I think I might have found a solution to the problem here, is if you were to take a trail from Maryland and you have Mississippi Street cuts in here. So if we could run a trail from Maryland right to Mississippi Street, which is this Sleepy Hollow little back road without a lot of traffic on it and a good access to the neighborhood. And then I think on the north end of Mississippi Street is about 20 feet until you're on the Gateway Trail where it crosses the freeway. That looks like that'd be a pretty simple matter to make, and I don't think it'd be much more or even probably considerably less expensive than the trail on the southern side of the freeway. It's just my input. It's something I had just recently noticed, but I think that might actually solve a lot of our problems. Thank you.
Comments? Yes, I'm going to ask you to come up here. It'll be much easier for people to hear.
Hi, I'm Cheryl Peterson, former board member on District 5 Planning Council, and I currently serve on the CPED committee. I wanted to speak first because you may have seen my crowd of people that I have here, younger folks that live on my block, and they are so awesome for coming to this meeting, but I don't think it's really their cup of tea. But on my block alone, 13 houses, 30 children live on my little block alone. Just think of the multiplication. They all want to ride bikes. Most of them have bikes, and they need a safe place to go to ride where there's not traffic because it's so dangerous. And I want them to, when they're teenagers and they want to go cross the highway or get on the trails, I want them to be able to have access. And just think of all the other neighbors, little blocks that don't have Chris and Cheryl to come and bring the kids to advocate for them. So just keep that in mind. The other little process thing that I noticed, I did attend a couple of the visual advisory meetings, and that was about what it's going to look like. I didn't want to see big sound walls, and I asked if there were any other technologies other than physical barriers, and I was told, this is the visual quality. We do not discuss the sound, any other sound, like just that compartmentalized, so I'd hope that we can maybe improve that. And I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Okay, my name's Kathy Seidels, and I don't live in this district, but I spend a lot of time here because I adopted the Bruce Vento bike trail through St. Paul Parks a couple years ago, and since March I've picked up 124 bags of trash. And I finally got 3 new garbage cans, and so I've talked to a lot of people along the Bruce Vento Trail. It's a beautiful trail, and what people like is they like the flowers, they like the benches, they like that it's off-road, that my counterparts picking up trash along Payne use walkers with seats that they have to sit on. As soon as these plans change the bike trail to be with the traffic, all you get is the really hardy bike riders, if that, and you don't even get that. I joined it's not just the Gateway Trail anymore, it's the Browns Creek Gateway Trail because they added more trail to it. They moved away from trails with roads. They moved to their own trail, brand new bridges. The cities at the east end of it are super excited. They're gonna get all these tourists to boost up their businesses. People are gonna wanna live there. This is going the other way. This trail here, from Case, I was there the other day, there's at least 10 people went just since till 2 o'clock Sunday morning, because that's how you get to the other side, and it's just mounds of dirt and big hunks of concrete, and they're still using it. I am an engineer of my day job, so when I look at it, electrical engineer, but anyway, I look at it, a huge expanse of the freeway goes over railroad tracks. That's no problem. We'll just do that. We're not going to ask the railroad to pay. Oh, but this 10-foot wide section, that can't be there anymore. I know there must be some engineering problem, but maybe make the railroad tracks skinnier. They're not using half of it, and they're using it railroads for a parking lot right now anyway. So I think we need to not go backwards. We need to have access to the trail every 8 blocks, do the nifty things these guys have planned, you know, to add access at Maryland and the other 2 places, but do everything we can to keep these off-road trail accesses to improve access to our neighborhood and improve it as a good place to live. One last thing, the light rail is going to change everything. Everybody's going to have access to that, and this cuts it off. And the Case and is the existing trails are the way the bike riders are going to get there. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you. And just for clarification, you were talking about the Central Corridor and Union Depot? Yep. Okay.
Well, University.
Yeah, getting to University is part of the plan, right, Scott? Okay. But getting to University is accessed on the west side of what we're talking about, so that's another reason why we want more connectivity. Come on, Pat. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Pat Hill. I have lived on the east side long enough to predate the district councils, so I had a letter published in the East Sider just this week by coincidence. I didn't know I was going to be at this meeting this week regarding the existence of current bike trails, the Vento and the Gateway, and the great access that we have to those trails currently. As a matter of fact, this morning I had taken a 10-mile ride on the Vento, the Gateway, and also the Keller and Phelan regional park trails that are in existence. I think our access to bike trails here is really quite exceptional. I didn't know what all the excitement was about. I really didn't know anything about it till I read a story in the East Sider about this meeting, so I came down to hear the story. From what I can tell here from the layouts that have been provided us, we may be losing this railroad bridge here at Arlington, but we are gaining a replacement of an off-road trail that crosses the current or the new Arlington Bridge that will still be there. As a bicycle rider myself, it's really not much of an inconvenience in my opinion. I think the access on the west side is entirely adequate. I was worried about the absence of the Case Avenue underpass on 35E that exists now, but I see that there's also going to be some off-street connections on the new Cayuga interchange that's being developed. So that's going to be replaced, and the distance between those is virtually the same, actually. So I don't really see much loss here, and the southern end connections on the Gateway and the changes at Maryland that let us get onto the trail at Lorient are all improvements. if the only issue is that you can't get on a bike trail on the east side, and I am an east sider, it's a matter of a couple of blocks, and I just don't see what the excitement is about here. If you're worried about walking, there are sidewalks in existence now for pedestrians. I use them myself. I rode my bike over here tonight without the benefit of a trail, and I just think that we're overreacting here. This revised plan looks pretty adequate to me, and that's speaking as a dedicated bike rider.
Thank you. And I just want to clarify, is it, it's not a non-motorized trail on the bridge, is it? I mean, how is that? Can you describe a little more precisely what's on the,
It is separated from traffic.
how separated is it?
Completely separate.
I mean, by what? Can you describe it?
Right now, we have
Yep. Yep, just really quickly, I think people had questions about the, please use the mic. Please use the mic. Thank you, Wayne. Sorry. Because we're being recorded by SPNN, it's important that we use the mic.
Okay.
Thank you.
The new trail on the Arlington Bridge that's replacing the loss of the Sioux Line Bridge or the gateway over now that's currently in place will be 12 feet wide. As part of normal bike and trail design, typically that's 12 feet wide with a 6 to 8 foot curb. But when you read back through the 1985 master plan for the Willard Munger Trail, which the gateway is a segment of that trail, it called out for a barrier to separate the trail from the through traffic. So we put forth a few options to the DNR. They're looking at them, taking them into consideration. And if the barrier goes in, such as a concrete with a railing on top, that's what the DNR wants. That's what we're going to put in. But we're looking for their input to provide to us what that separation should be.
Okay. Is this a, okay, we'll follow up on this theme, but we recognize that there's a line here. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that bridge that they're going to remove is 36 feet wide.
Exactly.
My understanding.
Mm-hmm.
Plenty wide for bicyclists and pedestrians. A 12-foot wide path on Arlington seems like it's going to be pretty narrow to accommodate both bicycles and pedestrians, especially when I believe the standards are you have to have at least 3 feet on a bicycle lane away from each side of the barrier. So if you put bicycle lanes in, where are the pedestrians gonna be able to walk, or vice versa? If you put in pedestrian path, where are the bicycles gonna ride?
So mixing pedestrian and bicyclist on one lane?
On a 12-foot path.
Right. Can you quickly address that on the bridge issue?
Yeah.
Quickly, because we have other, yeah, thank you.
Standard design for the DNR is a 12-foot wide trail with 2-foot reaction each, which is included within the 12 feet. So 2 feet, 8 feet, and 2 feet. And the DNR says that's adequate. We're doing that on our bridge that we're replacing at Highway 36 and the Bruce Ventral Trail, just east of English.
Okay, and so the pedestrians are going to walk in the 2-foot width on both sides?
Is it mixed? It is a mixed, it's a mixed, it sounds like it's 12 feet, and then you have those buffers, because you can't really walk next to the buffer. So actually 8 feet for bikes and peds.
Oh, I see. So it's going to be a combination of bikes and peds on the same path.
And many people have said that's unsafe, and you can get in line and say that again. So come on up.
My name is Melissa Meyer, and I have a clarification question, and then I have comments. My one clarification question is here, for this part where you are exiting on Cayuga for the bike trail, it was explained to me that you would take this trail off, and instead of being able to just cross the street, you would have to go up, over, and around to come back. Is that true?
You're talking about here?
Cayuga. I don't know which one is Cayuga, but whichever one is Cayuga.
Well, if you're over here, you have to go down to
on this side.
If you're over here, the Gateway Trail will be on that side.
And well, when you cross over, because I am a biker, and I am kind of a lazy biker. So if I have to go out of my way, I'm just going to cross over the railroad tracks or do whatever is not the legal thing to do. Just to tell you.
You got this on tape.
And so the best thing that was ever done was putting a trail that went underneath the railroad tracks over by downtown St. Paul, because I used to cross over them. And so I am concerned about the Arlington path because I live on Arlington. It's an arterial route. Cars are driving by at 40, 55 miles an hour. There's no sidewalks on the upper half of the hill, and on the lower half of the hill, where you do cross over on the Gateway Trail, the cars have just stopped from a stop sign or have come down a hill. So it is a little bit safer, but it's still kind of a murky area. The area where you'll have to cross over to get onto Lorient then is coming down from a hill. So the crossover area is going to be people that are either on a hill or lower down from a hill with guys driving 40 miles an hour. And that, to me, is a big concern, especially since I live on this busy street and I see all the craziness going on over there. So, thank you. And the last comment I have is, if this is going to be a plan that has to last for 100 years, the Gateway is like St. Paul's version of the Greenway. The Greenway has the pedestrian area, the bike lanes going both ways, and I don't really see that 100-year plan going on with this. So I really love living in St. Paul, but I love biking in Minneapolis better, and I would love for our trails to be like Minneapolis.
I'm Bob Hagstrom. I grew up, walked on Geranium Street before there was a church here. Don't ask me how old I am. I'm a member of the Gateway Browns Creek Association, which is made up of bikers, pedestrians, citizens, rollerbladers, and we have our president sitting back there, John Oldendorf. The Gateway Trail came into play in about 1980. It was a serious court fight. Many people said, you can't have the Gateway going through my backyard. We had meetings just like this 30 years ago, struggling to get the Gateway Trail in place. Since then, there's been a board, an active group of people. How many here belong to the Gateway Trail Association? Anybody? A handful. And you realize how valuable it is to have an association that cares about safety, well-being, maintenance, and can deal with conversations like we're having tonight. And this is a conversation with a real goal in mind. Not the first one. These conversations have been going on for a long time for those who have been at the meetings. Since I've been a part of the Gateway, 25 years or so, we have added 3 bridges for safety over various places coming into St. Paul. Couple tunnels. So it's not new to do these things, and you struggle with the entities and powers that be to make it happen. Biking is important, walking is important. The beauty of having a safe off-road trail through your community is important. I ride from my community. I live 14 miles out now, and I use the Gateway to access the Mississippi River, St. Paul, Urussos, and so on. So I'm just throwing that out as an overview of an organization that cares, and we care about meetings like this, and I hope this turns out just the way you want it.
Hello, and thank everyone for being here. My name is Romy Slowiak, and I'm kind of an East Side transplant, but I've adopted it very warmly as my home. And I'm here to speak to the transportation planners. I used to work for MnDOT, and for a very brief time, that's why I came here. And I do remember when I lived in Minneapolis hearing about the East Side and hearing Maryland Avenue referred to as Blood Alley. So, you know, I think we are dealing with a very dangerous road there. My husband and I biked that 2 nights ago. We biked the trails. And my first question is, how many of you have actually biked the existing trails? No, of the traffic engineers here. 1, 2. Okay. You know, I want to put this into my comments into context. There's a study that's been done by the Knight Foundation about cities, about what makes cities popular, what makes them the most livable. And there are 3 basic things that they found. One is connectivity with other people, an openness, a diversity. Another is activities, things to do. And the third is the built environment, paths, trails, the aesthetics of the area. In St. Paul, actually, we are growing and we're very popular, and we actually rank our built environment and our paths and trails #1, as opposed to the other cities. I think you'll find on the east side, we've got an incredibly active young population looking at bike paths, looking at pocket parks, planning community gardens. I mean, the whole area is really alive right now with energy. And it seems like what's going on here flies in the face of that. Nobody has really seen the pictures of what those streets are going to look like. There are going to be 6 lanes on each side. We're going to have a huge concrete river there. And the people who have decided not to put up walls might want to reconsider again what kind of sound and pollution there's going to be. I'm not really talking about that. I'm just talking about the beautiful trails that we have and the plea that where we have actual trails, where there is nature, where they're charming, where they're beautiful to ride, we can have those replaced with something equivalent. Thank you.
My name is Danette Ulrich. I live on the east side. Show them where you live. Yeah, really, right there. I live literally, and I can't be alone. I can't be the only one that has this problem, but I live on Case between Arkwright and Westminster, and we use the trail. I have 3 children, sorry. 2 that bike ride, 1 is in a trailer, so we can forget her. And then I have a daycare in my home, so we used it at least twice a week. And I had 2 ways of getting on. I could either go down Case, which would turn into Mississippi, and we could get on Cayuga and go on the trail on that side. Or we could go down York and do the underpass. And it was, I said, okay, so they're taking, Case is changing and it's gonna go to the right instead of going down. And so I know that they took that away. But then I thought, well, they have to replace it with something, and they're not. And then you go further down so is it the Case, whichever one?
Cayuga?
At York, yeah, it was this one that Case went under the bridge and you could get right on the trail.
Yeah, that's what we're talking
Yeah, and that's the one that's gone completely.
used to go there.
Right, we would use it all the time. And so I just took my husband to get his bike tire filled. And I said, do you know that the meeting tonight is about the fact that you can't get on that trail even? And he's like, oh no, when the road's done. I said, no, the road's gone and they're not building it again. So I know that I can't be the only one that says, okay, and it is a big deal. I know there was somebody up here who said, oh, I've lived on, and it's not a big deal. I'm upset. And if I have to go 10 more blocks either way, where I've lived here 13 years, I've had access to this, very right there, and they're both gone, and that makes me really sad. Plus, right now the east side, like the lower east side, is really, houses are selling, and we have great neighbors, and it's vibrant, and I love it. And this would be a huge selling point, like, oh yeah, we have access. Oh no, we don't anymore, sorry, yeah, you don't want to live here. It's just, I can't be the only one that feels like this. So I'm just sad that my 2 are gone, and that neither of them are being replaced. And Phelan Corridor, that's great, it's beautiful, I love it, but that's that far down, and that doesn't seem fair, so there.
My name is Kathy Henley, and I live on the east side. I don't know what I could add to what others have said. Very wise people, and they've lived here longer than I have. All I'm looking at is there's been several statements like this would cost too much. But what was the cost of replacement of those areas that you took away from us? What was the value? And why are not we getting the same value out of our dollar now?
Do you want to get an answer? Can we get an answer?
Yeah.
What's the replacement
Yeah,
value?
but you said the Cayuga one was
What's
too
the
expensive,
replacement
so-
value of this connection? I think that's what you're asking, Kathy?
Yeah.
And what's the replacement value of the Sioux Line Bridge if you were replacing like with like? I've heard 6 to 8 million for the underpass.
So what's the price? I mean,
Well, that's what.
The underpass, we estimated to get the underpass in, it's a tough design to get in for one thing. We estimated that to be about $3.5 million to put an underpass in at Case. The Arlington Bridge, it's a question of cost, but it's also a question of maintenance. The DNR owns that bridge right now. And so they've made a choice. A bridge could be replaced there on a skew like that. It gets a skew like that. That's a skew across there. It gets more expensive because the bridge gets longer and the piers get farther apart, so the structure gets deeper.
What about a 32 wide bridge, 32-foot wide bridge crossing the freeway in that proximity? You must have thought about that.
Yeah.
Replacing
First
it as
off,
part of the obligation.
the Gateway Trail is 12 feet wide for its length, right? So we wouldn't put a 32-foot wide bridge more than likely. I mean, it would be 12 feet
that's what would be
plus a little bit.
Your own operating manual says you would.
We're replacing a trail bridge. We would replace a trail bridge, not a railroad bridge. We wouldn't build a railroad bridge because there's a railroad bridge there now. If you look at trail bridges, including the Gateway Trail bridges that have been built recently, we don't build 32-foot wide bridges for a 12-foot trail. So I'm assuming, at least I would hope, that people would be in agreement we would build a trail bridge back there, an adequate trail bridge. And I'm going to make up a number here. I'm going to say a trail bridge of that length and that width there would be on the order of a couple $1 million, plus or minus $1 million, maybe. Well, not minus. It'd go up from that, if anything. Probably $2 to $3 million because of its length. That's just the cost to build it. Has to be inspected, maintained, and all of those things as well. So that does enter into the picture. And again, I mentioned that's the DNR's bridge. It's not MnDOT's bridge. They would have to maintain that over time. So that's, can I say a thing about the 100-year comment, just a clarification?
Quickly, yep, thank you. Yep, sorry.
When we build a project like this, we try to build bridges for 100 years because they do last a long time, and we're building them better than ever, and so they do last a long time. The other facilities, a trail facility made out of bituminous or asphalt, a concrete pavement, those last on the order of 20 years plus or minus. There will be staff from both city, county, and MnDOT back in here many times over the next 100 years maintaining and doing things to these trail systems. So once we put this down, we don't disappear for 100 years and then come back. There's a lot of maintenance that goes on.
Yeah, no, you're not done. I don't think you're done. I just, thank you, Mr. McBride. I am going to tell the community, though, that when we talked the other day, you said it was $5 million for the underpass at Case.
I'm not the designer, so.
Not the designer, yeah.
I probably also said, I think.
Okay, and actually, the community had heard from other MnDOT staff 6 to 8 million in the past. So it sounds like 3 million, 8 million, somewhere in there. Okay, come on.
Well, the only other thing I need to add is this is our capital city. We should have things good here. We should have the best here. We're the capital city.
Hello, my name's Eric Sadoff. I live on the east side. I've only been there for about 3 years. I live by Lake Phelan, and I ride my bike to work, which is at Crossroads Montessori North End. And I don't take the Gateway Trail because it's not really my route. It's not on my way. So what I do is I cross Maryland, and that's the most direct route. And when we talk about connectivity, for me, what seems to be the divisive part in our city is the highway, for me to get from the east to the west. And so I go across Maryland. I would much rather spend money on making Maryland better to get across. For me, for my family, I've got 2 kids, 1 on the way. The plan that they have looks good to me. It's a very small portion of the Gateway Trail that they're replacing, and it's going to be separated. There's the same amount of crossing of streets right there. So if we talk about spending the money to build that bridge, it seems like they're going to find a good way to do the same thing, and I would much rather increase the connectivity at Maryland. I do like the idea of this connection to Jessamine because that does, or Jessamine, because that does increase some connectivity, getting people to Maryland. But again, at Maryland, what are you going to do? So I would much rather have some traffic calming. I mean, we can't ask for everything. I'd love having it go from 4 lanes to 3 with turning lane in the middle and bike lanes. We're not going to probably do that, but this plan looks good. I think that the connectivity we need is at Maryland. Thank you for listening.
Hi, my name is Lily Cooksey, and I live almost on top of the Gateway Trail. I live at Burton Cottage. I use the Gateway Trail every day. And I'm also losing the ability to walk. So I'm worried about the width of this sidewalk going across 35 with the new bridge. Most wheelchairs and scooters are 3 to 4 feet wide. I want to know if there's going to be enough room in either direction for these wheelchairs and scooters to go across safely. Thank you.
Why don't you stay up here, Lily? So can someone address ADA standards on the bridges for pedestrians? Sure. American with Disabilities Act?
Yeah, that's a good clarification. The American with Disabilities Act, everything we do has to conform to those standards, and we do that. Within this design, for instance, at Maryland, the improvements that the gentleman was just talking about earlier had a 6-foot shoulder until we rebuilt the bridge, and it went to a 10-foot shoulder. I'm not sure what the existing shoulder is at Arlington. There's just a sidewalk across that bridge now. We'll widen that out. And they will meet all standards for ADA accessibility. And the trail does as well.
But let me just clarify, you can stay up here, weren't we just saying that it would only be 8 feet of kind of usable space in that mixed bike and walking route?
And it sounds like...
Well, explain, because we want to make sure...
Yeah, that's a good clarification. The trail is 12 feet wide from any barrier to any barrier. And the way we kind of parse that out in standards is the trail itself has to be 8 feet wide, and it has to have 2 feet of clear on either side. So we paved that whole 12 feet, so it's 12 feet wide there. It's not 8 feet plus 2 of something else. It's all one continuous surface, 12 feet wide.
And it sounds like you don't think that's enough.
I don't.
Yeah.
I think that is not enough. I mean, I don't know if you've ever spent any time in a wheelchair or in a scooter, but maybe you should try and see how accessible it is to walk down a sidewalk with a scooter or a wheelchair alongside of you. I mean, I'm not going to feel safe with my scooter or wheelchair by 2016 going across that new bridge. Thank you.
Thank you.
Leslie, and to the community, one of the entities that's missing here is the DNR. I mean, we're all directing questions to MnDOT. But understand that that railroad bridge that's being taken out is a DNR bridge. The Gateway Trail is a DNR trail, Department of Natural Resources trail. And they've turned over their responsibility to MnDOT. Now, I want to thank MnDOT. I want everyone to understand. MnDOT has done a great job coming to the community and listening to our concerns. The people who aren't here is MnDOT. And why did they give up? DNR. DNR. Why did they give up the railroad crossing bridge? I'm not sure whether it cost, the cost of adding 12 feet to an Arlington bridge has got an X factor. I don't know whether it's $1 or it's $1,000. And I don't know what the cost is to replace that rail bridge across 35. But there's got to be a difference. Someone should be able to tell us and MnDOT and the Department of Natural Resources what that cost is. And then we would know, is it $1 million more? And then it's up to the city, the county, the state to come up with that other $1 million. Or go to the bike and trails funds and ask for that $1 million or $2 million. The crossing under 35 down by Cayuga, and I don't want to try and figure out where it is with my finger here, that's a DNR trail, and they've abdicated to MnDOT. And why is that? And they're not here to tell us. And that's very frustrating to me. MnDOT took on these trails, and now they're trying to get rid of them. But yet, DNR spends millions of dollars in greater Minnesota on bike trails. And we have a hard time getting that money in the urban areas for bike trails. And I think that's unfair. So I want everyone to understand that I think MnDOT's on our side. I'm not sure where DNR is, and I appreciate this, but I would like to see that rail bridge replaced with a separate bridge from Arlington. And I would like to see some way of connecting. I don't remember what your name is over there, but the person that said the Lower East Side is becoming more and more vibrant. It is. And people are going to be moving back into the cities because it's simpler to get to work, less traffic, less gas money. So we need to continue to make our neighborhoods, whether they're the east side or Rice Street or the west side, vibrant, well-connected neighborhoods. So I'm grateful that we all had some conversations and it looked like we're going to have more. But I do want DNR to get a copy of this particular recording.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Representative. Yep. I'll address that. No, we're working with MnDOT. We would expect MnDOT to bring the DNR in because you work with the DNR. You can't expect the community to understand the many agreements you have with the DNR. But not by me, and not by District 5. We're working with MnDOT. We certainly can work with the DNR. We've written this down. They'll be at the next meeting. Okay, so let's keep this going.
I'm Bruce Montgomery, and I'm on the east side. I'm a bike rider. I love the Gateway Trail. Wish we had more, but I also love Minneapolis Trail better. But that's what I don't understand is that the area right before Maryland, how the Gateway Trail now, goes a little bit west, jogs around behind Kmart, comes back up to the Lorient. But now they've got a little nice tunnel underneath Maryland Avenue, which, by the way, is a homeless shelter. I was just there yesterday. Actually a little scary. But and now the trail's going to go up Lorient, and I don't understand why we did that, because it seems to me we're going to spend more money, bidding this new trail. Now, maybe that's not much in the scale of things, but it's always money. Our resources are finite, and I think if you're doing things like that, the money could be better spent somewhere else. Could I just have an explanation of why we decided to cut that little jog off and go straight up Lorient?
Not for me. That's a DNR trail.
So here's the trail.
Yeah,
here's where the trail goes currently.
Yeah, and they're going to go underneath Maryland straight up.
Right.
So what's wrong with this part? This is perfectly serviceable right now. And yet they're going to spend, they got this really nice tunnel underneath there already, Maryland Avenue, it's really beautiful.
Sir?
But why do we do that?
Sir, yeah. I believe the answer is the city's doing that as a maintenance issue for ease of maintenance. No, it's not. That's not? Okay.
All right, I want an answer.
Okay.
Let's
Thank you.
Stay up here so you get your answer.
Ah.
Yeah. Explain.
I was going to let the DNR answer for themselves since it's their decision, but since the city was brought in, the DNR has had a lot of complaints from riders and users of the trail that that's not a very friendly place to be back there, and they'd rather have eyes on the street. So they've actually come and asked to relocate it and look for two different locations. One basically adjacent to the freeway was looked at, and the other was adjacent to La Orient. The one that most people thought internally that was the best solution was along La Orient, because we have a similar issue getting behind the buildings that are along the freeway, and who wants to ride between the freeway and in the back areas. So La Orient was selected by them, as being their preferred route. And that's why they built the underpass between the ramp there so that it could continue straight down and straighten the trail out.
Doesn't really answer, but.
It answers my question, but I didn't think it's very scary going around Kmart.
Yeah. We like Kmart. I think it's one of the biggest Kmarts in the country. Thank you.
Hi, my name is James Herr, and actually I love the east side because I have two residents on the east side. You know, I live on, I sleep at Ward 2, but I live in Ward 5, so I gotta love it, right?
Yep.
So, because actually you can say I own me and my dad, we own the Maryland. Right now the county's doing the construction on there and winding the street of Maryland there, so.
Maryland and Arkwright.
Maryland, Arkwright.
Yeah.
So, which is for safety, I understand that, but I'm glad that it's wide, because I live there every day, so I see traffic come by, and yeah, Maryland is a very dangerous street with all the traffic there, so. And speak of the gateway, because all the tax money that we contribute to the county and the state and into DNR and transportation, like I said, I grew up, pretty much I grew up right on Maryland, Arkwright, living there with my parents every day and coming to business. So, but as kids, it's always hard for us to access the trail down here. You know, my parents say, okay, you're bored, take your bike, take your little brother, and go ride the trail for a while. But we always have to go up to Arlington, do a park and across. Or the other option is, with the new trail here, go across Maryland, which is kind of, as kids, sometimes you have to cross a lot of street, and it's hard. So, yeah, I would like to see something, something put in it to get easier access to a trail. And I think for safety, the more access to the trail, the more people will use it, and you know, the less thugs around, right? So I think that's probably the best way to go. And like I said, I love East Side. I lived here for a long time, and all my kids, we're gonna be living here because, like I said, we own a couple of places on the East Side, so we're not going anywhere. So thank you. Yep.
Hello, my name is William Zychek, and I live up by Phelan, use the gateway on a regular basis. Sort of my way of looking at this is the experience of the trail itself, and I usually take Bruce Vento north to the gateway, and then in the case I can go either left to 35W or right off to a Dairy Queen up by Century Avenue. But I think when you get on the trail, what the first thing you realize is, for one thing, it was an old railroad track, so the trees have grown up around it. There's a canopy overhead. It feels quite wild for being in the middle of a city. And the other thing, the next thing that hits you is just the number of people using it. And they're using it on foot, they're running, they're rollerblading, they're pushing strollers, they're hooking little trailers behind their bicycles. I mean, some people are out there training on their bikes. You can even see groups of 4 or 5 roaring by. It's a little chaotic, you know, but 12 feet seems to handle it. So now what we're doing is we're going to go down and convert, you know, first off, I want to say I do appreciate what MnDOT has done in pushing the Gateway Trail down to University Avenue. I think that's really a good idea. And you have shown a lot of connectivity, bringing it on sidewalks and so on to try to connect with that. But there's a difference between a bike lane and a state trail in my mind. And I would like to preserve as much of the state trail as possible. And I don't understand why we can't put a pedestrian, you know, bike bridge in replacement of the Sioux Bridge. I don't really understand why we can't run another bridge across the freeway from Case to the Gateway. There's an awful lot of money going into this thing. Why can't we preserve what we already have? And I'm also a little concerned about what's happening to the trail realignment because of your stormwater ponds off 35. It looks like you're pushing the trail right up against the security fence. Maybe you're not, but that's the way it feels. It doesn't look like, this is right near the MnDOT Truck Center, I think.
Okay. Just south of Maryland?
Yeah. So that feels pretty squeezed there, and I'm just wondering what it's going to actually be like. Is it open on both sides? Are you up against a security fence on one side and the freeway on the other, or what? But anything that can be done to mitigate that. Whatever we can do to make it more like a trail and less like a bike lane, that's the direction we need to go, in my opinion.
Good evening. My name is Darlene Adams, and I live on the east side. I've lived here over 20 years. I just want to say that, you know, when you begin to make improvements in communities, it's very important that you ask people before you start. We're on the tail end of this, and now you're coming to us getting our input when you should have did it in the beginning. You know, I was one of the people when the freeway went through the Rondo community. Yes, it was an improvement, but it destroyed a whole bunch of people's lives. And so I am concerned that our taxpayers' money, who pays your salary, and you're here because you're being paid to be here. We're here because we live here and we care about what's going on. I think that you need to really value our lives, because what you're doing in our community changes the environment in which we live. We are the state of Minnesota. We should always have the best in the city of St. Paul because we are our capital. You've heard how they said that there's better things in Minneapolis. I understand that. But at the same time, even when we were talking about the retaining walls or the sound barriers, it was a big thing about money and how they should look. Look, we have money. When you want to do something, you can find the money to do it. I understand there's some disparities, monies that is part of this project. Use some of that for the improvements that's being suggested. Thank you for your time.
Well, Darlene told you all about the planning failings on this project, and they're pretty evident because we're here and they're pouring cement out on the roadway, and they closed our trail. So obviously something isn't working the way it normally does. Would you guys agree with that? DOT folks? You would? Well, good. We got some agreement. Put that down on the chart. We have agreement. It's always important to establish agreement first part of the meeting. You know, St. Paul is a city of the first class. We are being treated, some of us feel, on the east side, as though we've all been assigned to second class. Because if you look at the gap, and this is the gap that's been created, and I'm not going to argue with Tim Mahoney whether it was the DNR or the DOT or the city or whoever, because, you know, frankly, they all work for us, and, you know, they wouldn't be there except for the money that comes out of all of our pockets and the rest of the people that use the highways and pay the taxes. But there's a gap here. And it dawned on me when I read an article by Fred Milo with the Pioneer Press, because he talked about a mile between Cayuga and Arlington where there's a gap. He didn't use that word, but I will. You remember Kennedy and Nixon, some of you, with the missile gap? Well, you know, DOT has succeeded many years later in creating an east side trail gap here. And we want you to fill the gap with a trail. We don't want a trail over here on this side of the street that we got to go crazy places to go catch. We want a trail on our side of the street. The east side is 1/3 of this city. Do you think we deserve a trail on our side of town? Can we say yes? Can we agree that that's what we want? And let's talk about the cost. You know, I'm in a political minority. Some of you may know that already. I'm not in the same party that Mr. Mahoney's in. I'm a Republican. The point that I would make only on that is that here's the guy who says, you know, to the city council the other night, we were up there talking about that Saints baseball stadium, and we don't want a stadium tax on our homes to pay for that. Well, you know, I'm perfectly willing, however, to say that we do want to pay for a good trail in our city. And we feel like we're already paying for it. If you take the cost of this project, and I understand you have some new figures, but I'm going back to Fred Milo's figures. Back in April when he wrote the story, it was about $227 million then. If you take just 3 cents on the dollar out of that pot of money at that time, we get $7 million. $7 million. That's not $7 million that we as city taxpayers on our homes have to come up with like we would if this was something run through the CIB process. There's a plan that the city has offered that would have to be funded by the CIB, our capital improvement bonding process. I used to be on that board. We don't have the money in the city to advance that project. DOT is building a road. They took out the bridge. To quote a good Republican, Colin Powell, who I hardly ever quote, you know, if you break it, you own it. And the reality is, folks, that we can afford to do it right the first time. We don't have to ride in second class. We're not going to be left behind. It's up to you to demand that these gentlemen, and with Mr. Mahoney's help, Senator Fong, I saw him, where's he at here? He didn't get any mention today. You know, these are the people that represent us. Unfortunately, my senator and my representative are not here tonight, and I'm going to have to talk to them about that because they're supposed to be here. When we need our senator and our representative, they ought to be here. Just like we are glad that you folks are here, and we hope that Mr. Zelli will be coming back to make an announcement about the new trail on the east side of St. Paul.
Thank you. And if others want to speak, it's a good time to come on up here. Come on up, sir. Thank you.
Hi. I'm really nervous, so bear with me. I don't actually live on the east side. I live in the Midway, and I'm really intrigued to see this turnout at this kind of a meeting. I don't know if we would get such a turnout at a meeting over there. However, I do maintain a residence over here, which my wife is my wife's primary residence, so I do go back and forth. And also my wife and I moved our business over here 28 years ago. And since that time, I've commuted by bicycle from where I live in the Midway over here. I used to do it every day, 7 to 9 months of the year, and I still do it. I experimented for a few years on a route and finally settled on one that's actually very quiet and very pleasant. I go underneath, I did go underneath the freeway on Cayuga and then up Mississippi to Case. And now, as you know, that's been cut off. So for the next 3 years, I've lost my route. Well, they are going to be replacing Cayuga under the bridge or over the freeway, but then I'm going to be I'm anticipating the heavy traffic coming off the freeway and then onto Cayuga, and to get onto Phelan Boulevard, I'm going to be riding alongside that, and then I'll have to cross it. So it's a little bit discouraging. But I'm not going to move my business back over to the Midway. Over in the Midway, where I live, we don't have a lot of trails, but we do have a standard along the I-94 corridor, all the way from about Jackson Street to Cretin Avenue. Every 2 long blocks, pretty much, maybe there'd be 1 or 2 exceptions, there's a crossing for pedestrians and bicyclists. If there's not a roadway, there's a pedestrian bicycle bridge, which was built by the DOT when the freeway was constructed back in the 60s. Recently, 2 of those have been replaced because they had deteriorated to the point where they were unsafe. So, you know, I'm having a little bit of trouble wondering why it's so expensive to build to replace those 2 crossings that you're losing. Even if you do replace those, you're still not going to be up to the standard that we have in the Midway.
My name's Donald Post. I live on Westminster, and I'm all for a trail on the east side of the freeway. My problem is on this one map, it shows that Westminster is going to be narrowed if there's a trail, off-street trail.
Oh,
and
we're not even using that.
Oh, you're not
map,
even
Donald.
using that?
No.
Oh, okay.
So we hadn't really seen it, but go ahead and talk.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, I'm
please
just concerned because there's city buses going up my street now since May, and if you narrow it, they're going to lose parking. There's going to be problem with congestion. So if there is a trail on the east side of the freeway, I like to have it configured so it doesn't interfere with the width of the street with the city buses. Good. Thanks.
Hi, my name's Susan Bishop, and I really have to
I really admire and appreciate all of the connectivity that you've increased on the trails going north-south on the west side of the freeway. I bike a lot, and I'm very familiar with biking over freeways on adjacent bike lanes and busy streets. And I really do feel like we're not getting a replacement when we run bike lanes adjacent to very busy streets. I'm really concerned about the safety on Maryland Avenue. That Westminster thing, I would love to see a visual of it because I really don't understand it, so I'm going to be looking on MnDOT's website for that to better understand it. But bottom line is, I feel like we really need a separate pedestrian bicycle bridge. That's bottom line for me. Thanks.
I'm Susan Forsberg. I'm on the District 5 Council on the CPED, and I live right down the street here on Geranium. I actually told everybody I wasn't going to speak tonight, for which everybody was very grateful. But I felt there was one segment that we were kind of overlooking until the gentleman from Midway came up here, and I thank him for his comments. I actually work for Metropolitan Council, and in that capacity, I work with employers in 6 of the 7 counties and all the cities within 6 counties, so I'm pretty busy and covering a number of full-time jobs. But the point is, I work with employers on commuting for employees and helping reduce congestion, the emissions, and everything else. So I'm working with mainly the larger employees on getting their employees to work, whether it's using bus, light rail, carpools, manpools, biking. And I'm sure you're aware of the fact that over the last number of years, we've significantly increased the bike commuters in the metropolitan area. I've had to laugh at those who said they prefer Minneapolis. I work in Minneapolis, and I know what they say, and I hear it at every employer that I go to, particularly the big employers in downtown Minneapolis and surrounding areas of the city itself. And it just is simply a better system. But I think one of the things that we're missing here are the number of people that do commute on these paths every single day. And while, yes, they're going through our neighborhood, so are going to be the people that are using the Min-Pass lane on 35. But a lot of the bikers are far more likely to stop and do business here than our cars that are whizzing through. When I first took this job 15 years ago, I actually covered downtown St. Paul as part of my territory as well. They were really trying to kill me off. But the point is, we've since hired a partner that covers that. But when I was covering downtown St. Paul, I worked with all the state agencies, and it completely blew my mind when I met at Department of Human Services at Metro Square downtown one day, a gentleman that told me he biked in every single day from Stillwater. And he was 65 years old. And I looked at him and remember saying something really polite, like, "You must be completely crazy." And he said, "No, I can sit either in traffic on Highway 36 for an hour and a half every morning, or I can spend that same hour and a half riding in and getting to work a lot calmer and in a lot better mood than sitting there in the traffic." And I think we sometimes kind of forget those kinds of people. So we've heard a lot tonight from recreational bikers, people that are biking for pleasure, kids that are biking, but I think we need to remember the sheer numbers of commuters that are coming through this area on all these trails and paths too. Thank you.
Do we have others who want to speak tonight? You have sheets of paper. Yeah. Yes. Okay, yes, certainly. Come on up. I'm going to talk for a second. There are sheets of paper that say input. Everyone must have that sheet of paper, and we don't want you to leave until you have written down what you want. Who doesn't have that sheet of paper? It says input. Well, it can be the large sheet of paper on your table, but there's a worksheet that was handed out. Brad Griffith has some, it looks like. We just want everyone to have an opportunity to write down. We're going to hear from these gentlemen, and then we're going to take a few minutes and synthesize what we heard tonight and talk about the next steps. So anyone that has not spoken who really feels they have something to say, this is your chance. So Fong He, Senator Fong He. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Sorry I arrived a little late tonight, although I sent my assistant here, and he was here very beginning when a few of you just started coming. So, I really appreciate that MnDOT is here and hear the community voices. And I'm very glad that, most of you, actually, I think a lot of you live in my district right here. We're talking about Cayuga. I was a little further outside my district, but I really appreciate many of you got me to office. And serving first term, first session, I have the opportunity to cast my vote to appropriate funding for MnDOT, and I'm glad that you're here to listen to the community. And if it come down to, my voice will be leaning toward the community. And I use the trail, and I like to make sure that we all work together, neighborhood and MnDOT, and also myself as elected official, so that we can make a friendly and safe trail. One thing I want to focus on, I heard a number mentioned on Maryland Avenue being not safe for pedestrians. I'd like to maybe put a little focus on that part. So I thank you very much for allowing me to talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim McDonough, Ramsey County Commissioner. I'm here to listen, and I'm so proud of this community for the turnout tonight and the people willing to speak, but there's one part of the process that we haven't talked about, and you need to be aware of it, and there is a question here for MnDOT, because I was fortunate to be in on the meeting with Commissioner Zelli, and I would agree he's a genuine person. I know Charlie Zelli for a long time, working in many different areas. But there is a part of this process called municipal consent. And that's when the city actually has some leverage to ensure that their interests are taken care of in these big projects. And that's already been signed by the city of St. Paul with MnDOT. So the reality is here, it's to get MnDOT to work with us on any changes other than what they've already proposed. It's because MnDOT feels like they got to listen to the community. And so my ask of Commissioner Zelli was, that's great, you've got the city to sign off on municipal consent, but there's a community out here, there's partners you have to work with every day that aren't necessarily pleased with the amount of investment that you've proposed to put in this corridor to mitigate the response. And so the question to MnDOT is, and the ask to Commissioner Zelli at that time was, for MnDOT to show the leadership here in recognizing that even though municipal consent's already been dealt with, that as a partner and as a leader in our community that's coming in and doing $250 million worth of work, are they willing to continue to listen and work with the community to enhance the investments that they've already made? And that's the question here to you, Mr. McBride. Are you willing? Does all this work that we're going to do tonight, is there the potential that there will be changes and that we will see an increased investment in this corridor because of the work that these people are willing to do tonight?
You want to stand up and Commissioner, stand right here.
Yeah, don't go far, so you can hit me if you don't like my answer. No. The answer is clearly yes, and that's why the commissioner asked us to be here tonight. I do want to. We've had some statute read to us tonight, so I do want to point out there is one pretty clearly important statute for us. Our funding comes into the Trunk Highway Fund, which is constitutionally dedicated to spend on roads. So if you ask me to spend trunk highway money on a trail over here that doesn't touch the trunk highway, we can't do that legally. So we're pretty creative on working with our local partners to not go to jail, but get things done. So I will put that out there. We are committed to working with the city, with the county. And bottom line is all the partners have to be in this together. We all have to reach some consensus together, and we all have to reach agreement on what's going to happen out here. And again, there are differing opinions here. There is not one consensus on what to do here, I don't believe yet.
We're gonna talk about that. So
well, my point is, we all need to be on the same page. And bottom line is what we typically wind up doing in every situation like this, and every transportation project we get involved in, is weighing trade-offs. You know, there are some things that help some people, and it may hurt somebody else. There are trade-offs there in every project, and we need to be willing to reach consensus and work together and be willing to support something, not just be against something.
why don't you stay up here with us? I think. Yeah, go right.
And thank you for that commitment. I would hope that there is the opportunity that there's going to be some influence here on the decisions. I think just a quick response to some of the issues you raised as far as statutes and stuff. Representative Mahoney, he is here, Senator Fong is here, Representative Connie Bernardi's back there, who didn't get recognized before, but she also is Ramsey County's active living person who's got a real interest in ensuring that we have complete streets and walkable communities when we make these investments. But you know, as those issues come up, we would expect you to reach out to the partners that want to help make this the best for the community, because even though you pointed out this might not be viewed as a 100-year investment for you, once you move on, we lose the opportunity to really do anything else after that, and we want to make sure that this opportunity maximizes the community's wishes here, so thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, sure. Just there might be clarification. Or we have a few minutes left, and before people leave, I see some people getting up. Just hang on 5 minutes if you can. 5 minutes? The paperwork's done. We'll take that. What we wanted to get our sense of, District 5 has already made some requests, has already put forward some ideas. We heard other ideas tonight to add on to that list. I'm going to read off what District 5 had already suggested, and just kind of, I want to, if you feel strongly, why don't you clap if you like it and be silent if you don't. We said we're going to meet with Commissioner Zelli face to face. Okay. That meeting is in follow-up to get action, specific commitments. So we make that clear. We'll take all the data we get tonight. We'll synthesize it. We'll talk to our partners at the city. We'll talk to everybody. You know, we'll put this on the website, what the synthesis is. You let us know. You didn't hear it right or you got it right on, okay? We're creating a feedback loop with the neighborhood. And we are asking for a trail in the MnDOT right-of-way requested from Cayuga to Arlington with full connectivity at the 3 bridges both sides. I heard that echoed tonight. So fill the gap and close the loop. That's what we heard. And bring, didn't talk about this too much. We have a commitment from the DNR to do the connection from Maryland to the underpass and the gateway. And the timing of that was 2016. I believe you told me that, Mr. Masco.
Construction in the fall of 2015.
Oh, 2015, okay.
It's the fiscal year of 2016, which starts July 1. So.
Is there any, we didn't really discuss that, but some people said that's too late for us to wait. Other people feel like, okay, that's okay. So any strong feeling about that, or are we just happy it's coming in?
Happy it's coming in.
Happy it's coming in, okay. So that goes off the list. We'll say thank you to everybody who's responsible for making that connection in the community, which raised the concern some months ago. Yes?
Actually, you have 3 different options on your map, and on these sheets that we're putting together.
Yep.
If people have a preference, you might want to ask them to put A, B, and C as 1, 2, or 3.
Well, 1 second. We'll get there. Yeah. Then we didn't realize there's no uniform designed signage. We have a lot of assets here on the east side, but there are few signs to direct you to them. So we'll ask for, we don't know who's responsible or who can help contribute to that. That's something we'll talk about. We need uniform wayfinding signage once the trail is done. You can have a connected loop if people don't know how to get to it. It's not used. Everybody like that? Is that okay? Okay. And in the design of the bike and ped trail accommodations that we're asking for, we think it's important to have an external, to ask MnDOT, maybe the DNR could share this too, to have a consultant to work with the community to get the plan right on a trail or whatever pedestrian or biking facilities come out of this discussion. That's a piece of the request, is just to have someone to work with the community briefly, you know, to make sure that this happens.
To make sure which element happens?
A MnDOT paid consultant with expertise in bike ped trail accommodations to work with the community on designing the trail piece from Cayuga to Arlington. We're not asking you to commit to that tonight. I'm asking the community, do you think that's a good idea? We think it's a good idea. Okay. So we're not going to put you on the spot right now for that, but that's on our list here. And then it's been raised a lot of concerns about process and public involvement. We think it's important that MnDOT do an external quality review of the projects, the 2 projects, and how laws were followed and policies upheld. Recommendation to the commissioner. And this is maybe a small thing, but sometimes small things become big things. Naming the trail. Does the community get to help name the trail? If we get a trail, who names trails?
Not me.
It is the Scott McBride Trail. It's just something that, okay, okay. Don't anybody go do anything rash, you know. So, but that's something that people had asked for. And those are just a few things. And then we heard other things. I heard that people would like to hear more about the other options that weren't discussed tonight. You got a map for the Westminster Shareway. We could talk about that. But as Tim Mahoney said, it's time to give your input now on preferences because construction is underway. We don't have time for lots of meetings. We want to know what you think. Put that on your input, what your preferences are. Yep. Yep. Oh, thank you. That was, I was getting to that point. Yeah, pedestrian bridges, replace the bridge. Everybody in agreement on that? That's a piece where a consultant could be very helpful at thinking about placements and things like that. So, but replacing the bridge. And again, we're not asking for your commitment, but to carry the message back to Commissioner Zali, and we will work on that. Anything else that people heard that we didn't capture? I mean, there are notes here, and we'll be typing those up. Yep.
I think we have a real serious problem on the east side where people, I think they're approaching 50 miles an hour going east on Maryland from I-35.
Thank you.
We have a huge problem. It's frightening to try to walk as a pedestrian across almost any intersection. Like all,
Well,
we're talking to White Avenue. It's horrifying.
Yeah, thank you. District 5 has been working with Ramsey County, in particular in the city of St. Paul, on the left turn lane.
Well, no, I'm talking about the speed. I don't care about left turns.
I know, but it all ties together. And we have a meeting on the 7th, which is next Wednesday, down at the police station at 6:30. We're going to talk about Payne and Maryland reconstruction. So that's very significant to our neighborhood, and we encourage you to come to that if you're able to come to that. And that's a series of meetings. So go ahead. Yeah.
Leslie?
No, go right ahead.
One of the things I think we need to ask too, because we did hear some speakers that said that they thought this was a good proposal and they thought this worked. And I want to make sure MnDOT goes away and doesn't have an opportunity here. Is the majority of people in this room think that this is enough investment and solves the issues, or do we think that there needs to be more work and more investment on this? Because there were some speakers that said this was enough.
More. More. I can't hear you. Replay. I think that, yes, I have, see a hand up, Stephen?
Sorry, so this pertains to signage. The need for more than just English in signage.
Multilingual signage?
Yeah,
excellent
I'm
idea.
a family physician that works at the McDonough home,
yeah.
So that's my commute from Dayton's Bluff. And all of my Karen patients and my Somali patients and my Hmong patients, they've existed in the U.S. and they've gotten unhealthy because of existing in the U.S. with car culture. And if we can enable the Karen community and the Somali community that live in our neighborhood to really embrace this bicycle culture, then we can actually restore their health back to their countries that they actually came from.
Thank you very much. I heard a closing remark. Oh, no. Yep. Well, people are eager to leave.
I'll try to be real short.
That's,
I just wanted to
talk
to a point here.
Okay.
Yeah, good luck. That's right. I'm going to take that good luck. I wish I had Mahoney's green shirt. The point that was made here when you came up, Mr. McBride, Engineer McBride, about not spending road money on this project. You know, I got to beg to differ because you're going to end up, you know, you're taking out this bridge because you're building a road that collects a toll. This is a road that's being built for the convenience of nobody that lives in this city. There's nobody going to buy a Min Pass on the east side of St. Paul to ride on your new road. We do want you to respect that fact, and we want you to respect the fact. Okay, well, that's fine. But, you know, I'm talking to Mr. Zelli all the way down to that big building there, and I understand you had trouble with the exterior. But, you know, we do need some respect for the east side here. You know, and frankly, to tell us that you can't spend the money, wait a minute, you're spending all this money, $227 million, and we don't get 3 cents?
Thank you.
Not right.
Thank you all for coming. We really appreciate it. Al, would you like to close us out?
Thank you all for coming. Thank you to the elected officials. Thank you to Mr. Masco for doing the maps. Thank you for helping with getting things set up in the beginning. So we appreciate all of your participation. You all spoke very well. You provided exceptionally good input, and we appreciate your participation. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.